Hello everyone and welcome to F1 Teammate Comparison. In this video we'll be comparing each team's two drivers for each F1 team across the 2024 season over the 15 races, sprint and feature races to date. Let's get straight into it with the Red Bull team. You can see here that Max Verstappen has 14 race results to Perez's 1. That is a dreadful showing by Perez and shows that Verstappen has outperformed Perez in each race in all but one race. That is terrible, and considering Max is actually DNF from a race, that's a race where Perez outscored him, so it's not great. He needs to improve. Similarly, in qualifying, Verstappen 15-0 in qualifying, as he kind of gets an average qualifying position for Verstappen of 1.8. So he's either at the front or near the front every race. The same can't be said for Perez, who gets a 7.6 average qualifying position. So it's not great, and it kind of indicates that Perez is either way down the order or at most 3rd or 5th, like around that place. He's not doing great. I think that is kind of reflects the improvement of the challenging pack this season. And also recently, since the start of the season, Perez's kind of form has been so bad. I think he's qualified down in the depths the last 3 or 4 races, so that needs to improve. Point finishes, it's been a bit more even, where Perez has managed to redeem those qualifying performances to finish in points in 12 out of the 15 races. So it's not terrible, but you can see by the total points that the finishing positions is so far behind Max, as he is almost kind of 2/5 of Max's total points, which is terrible, and leaves him currently, I think, 6th in the standings as of the date of this video. Max obviously has 10 wins this year, including sprint races and feature races, and also 12 podiums. Perez is 6. Perez doesn't even have a win this year, whereas like Hamilton does, Russell does, I think one of the Ferraris does, and also Norris does, so he definitely needs to improve. Moving on to the McLarens, we have kind of a more even showing here, but still a more dominant driver in Norris. Norris has a 12-3 race result finish. So in 12 of the races, he finished higher up the grid than Piastri. I think similarly, qualifying results, he got 12-3. So Piastri's out qualified Norris 3 times. So it's Piastri's still strong because we know Norris is a great driver, but also Piastri kind of needs to improve a bit and kind of be more consistent in having those really good weekends, not just have a kind of really strong weekend every so often. The average qualifying position here is a bit closer, where it's only 2 different. So at Norris qualifies an average 3.6, so somewhere between 3rd and 4th he's around, where Piastri is more between 5th and 6th around there, or that's the average anyway. Wins wise, we have Norris with 1 win. Podiums, Norris obviously has the 8 podiums over sprint and feature races, where Piastri only has the 3. So Piastri kind of needs to improve that, but he obviously has shown he's got a lot of kind of 4th and 5th place finishes given the total points, where it's a lot closer than what we saw with the Red Bulls, and Norris has 171 points and Piastri has 124. So only a 52 point difference, and maybe like 4/5, 3/5 of Norris' score for Piastri, so not as big of a margin between these two drivers. Then next up we have probably one of the tightest pairs with the Mercedes boys of Russell and Hamilton. Russell has got 10 race result victories over Hamilton, and also 12 qualifying victories. I think that's kind of evident of how strong Russell's been this year overall, but I think you can see by total points, it's only a 1 point difference, which shows that even though Russell's been more consistent and kind of achieving that high performance, when Hamilton has been there, he's been performing well and getting podiums, which we also see down in the wins and podiums columns, where Hamilton has 1 more podium with 3 than George Russell. I think the average qualifying position as well is quite interesting, where Russell has a 5.1 qualifying average place, so he's in and around the kind of front pack, where Hamilton's more towards the end of the points on average, or even outside the points qualifying start. So yeah, looking at these two, it's kind of clear that Russell's kind of more consistent one, but Hamilton is kind of, when he does score, he scores more points on average. And then we have 2 Ferrari guys, who I think is probably the closest 2 on the grid. Race result, obviously, there's 1 less race due to Carlos Sainz's illness and appendicitis in Jeddah. So we have 14 races overall. So Leclerc has gotten 7 of those race results. So yeah, we can see that even with that, there's still not much margin between them, with kind of Leclerc kind of edging out in the first 2 kind of finishing categories. So he got a better race result and also qualifies a bit better than average qualifying position as well. We all know Leclerc's a very strong qualifier, so it's not a surprise to see him 0.6 places on average above Sainz with 4.5. The wins, there's 1 apiece this year for both of them, and podiums, Leclerc slightly edges out. But in terms of total points, also Leclerc edges out again. So it's 4-point difference, not much. Then Sainz, even though he's raced at 1 less race, he has 13-point finishes. So still very strong. I think this kind of indicates a kind of surprise at why Sainz was kicked out of that Ferrari, as he's performing as well as their wonder boy Leclerc. So there's probably more commercial reasons for that move, because Sainz is very, very strong and performing as well as Charles Leclerc. Then we have Alonso and Stroll at Aston Martin. I think this is one that's most surprising, the biggest kind of change up from what we would expect. We all know Stroll is a pay driver, some might say, whereas Alonso is a world champion, very, very strong performer. But I think everyone's kind of acknowledged that Stroll's kind of gotten out of his hump that he's been in last year, while Alonso kind of dipped in form. Maybe the age is getting to him. Still, Alonso's still better driver overall, with the race results kind of sliding in his way with 9-6. The same qualifying results, 8-7. Point finishes, the same thing, 8-5. And in total points, Stroll almost has half of the points from Alonso, but I think more recently in kind of Silverstone, Austria, Barcelona, we've seen a strong performance in Stroll and less in Alonso, so maybe he'll come through towards the end of the season. Wins and podiums, nil either side. The average qualifying position, slightly better, maybe 2.1 up for Alonso. So Stroll will kind of be trying to close that in, kind of cement his place in that team, even though it's his daddy's team. Next up we have the RB2, and I think these guys are very kind of contentious because Tsunoda is outperforming Ricciardo, but still Ricciardo has been talked about to have that RB, that Red Bull seat, maybe even at the end of summer. So it's really weird because Tsunoda is younger and outperforming Ricciardo, as we can see by the statistics. He's got 8 race results over Ricciardo and 10 qualifying results over Ricciardo. 7-point finishes to Ricciardo's 3, but only a 9-point difference in the kind of points total. So Ricciardo scored a kind of higher points. I think he had that result in Miami, which was very strong, but Tsunoda's been way more consistent in scoring those kind of 8th, 9th, and 10th place positions. Neither of them obviously have any kind of podiums or wins. And then average qualifying position, see that Tsunoda's slightly better. There's not a huge gap there, so Ricciardo's doing fine, I guess. Not as good as Tsunoda, but still not miles apart like De Vries was last year. Now we have the Sauber guys. I think that this is quite hard to compare because each driver is on 0 points. So each driver has 0-point finishes, 0 total points, 0 wins, 0 podiums. But we can look at the other statistics to see who's kind of doing a better performance. Bottas has 8 race results to Zoe's 7, so it's kind of a little bit better. And obviously he's qualifying 13-2, no contest. Zoe has been terrible in qualifying this year. I think that's kind of clear for everyone to see. And it kind of correlates as well to the average qualifying position, with Zoe getting 17.9, which is, I think, the lowest in all of F1, which is not great. Whereas Bottas has 15.2, which isn't still amazing, but markedly better than that 17.9. I think this year might be the last year for Zoe, because this form isn't very good, considering he also needs a seat as he's out of contract at the end of the year. Haas, I think everyone was expecting this. Hulkenberg is having a hell of a season, getting 11 race result victories over his teammate and 10 qualifying result victories over his teammate. I think Magnussen, in a couple of races, he's kind of helped the team get those race result victories, so you can't kind of say he's done nothing or hasn't done much, considering he only has kind of the 5 points compared to Hulkenberg's 22. Some of those points Hulkenberg wouldn't have earned if it wasn't for the kind of sacrifice made by Magnussen. I think this could be further extrapolated going into the year, as kind of Magnussen is made as a scapegoat to let Hulkenberg shine. And I think the team are fine with that. The Magnussen is such a team player, he's fine with that too. The average qualifying margin, position, is 16 compared to 12.2, which shows Hülkenberg, some races he's qualified bottom of the kind of Q3 area or top of Q2. So he's always been in that kind of area for a shout at points. Then we have the Williams 2, and it's no surprise here. Sargent's done terribly. There's qualifying result 13-2. 2 of those came in sprint races, which I'm including, but there's still in feature races it's 12-0 in qualifying. So it's terrible. Still though, I think Albon will be kind of disappointed with his points haul, only getting 4 points of this so far this season. I think he'll be expecting more considering the kind of investment the team's made. Both drivers have 0 win apiece, and the average qualifying position for Albon is 13.1, whereas for Sargent it is 17.3. So almost as bad as Zoe, but still not quite there. But maybe as indication that this year Sargent isn't the worst on the grid, and that honour now might be owned by Zoe. But considering the kind of performance of Bottas, and he still hasn't been able to get points, whereas Albon has, maybe they just have a way worse car. So I think it's a very, very interesting conversation and a kind of argument of who's the worst driver. Is it Sargent still? Or is Zoe now claiming the title of the worst driver this year in F1? Now we have Alpine. And I think this surprised me when I kind of put these statistics together. I was expecting Gasly to kind of outshone Ocon. I think it's the other way around a little bit. Race results, Ocon 9-6 for Gasly, and qualifying result 10-5. So for both those metrics, Ocon's done better. Point finishes and total points, Gasly has. So in those weekends where they've done well, Gasly's done a bit better than Ocon, but still on average in those kind of races where they haven't done well and the car hasn't been great, Ocon's probably been the better driver. Average qualifying position as well. Ocon's slightly lower down the order, so he's up in 14th around there, whereas Gasly's more leaning towards 15. So I think it's kind of an interesting call as to why they kicked Ocon out. You can see it's because of his kind of character and not because of any driving ability, because these drivers have been very close this year. I think it's only luck in where Ocon hasn't performed at races, whereas Gasly has, in those races where Alpine have a competitive car. These are my F1 driving comparisons for kind of the end of the triple header. Let me know what you think down in the comments, kind of who's been the better teammate. Thank you for watching. Peace.